The research station Heliovault drifted above the amber clouds of Arctis 9, its metallic ribs gleaming faintly against the swirling storms below. For most of the alien researchers assigned there, the station was a sanctuary, well-lit, meticulously sterile, and protected by thick hull plating that insulated them from the predatory chaos of the galaxy. But for Marcus Hale, one of only 3 humans on board, it felt more like a floating office building with slightly better views. He walked the central corridor with his usual quiet stride, glancing at the alert panels that lined the walls. The screens pulsed softly with diagnostic data, atmospheric readings, xenobiological experiments, habitat integrity. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, yet the air carried a strange tension, as if the station itself anticipated something the crew hadn't recognized. Marcus paused, sensing the shift. Humans were good at that. Intuition born from millennia of surviving predators that could stalk the quietest forests. Most other species on Heliovault relied entirely on instruments, believing technology could warn them of anything. Marcus had long suspected that was a dangerously optimistic assumption. He reached the communal lab just as Talix, the insectoid operations commander, clicked out a greeting. The commander's 4 mandibles twitched rapidly, signaling both welcome and impatience. "Human Marcus, your gait pattern suggests distraction. Are you ill?" "I'm fine," Marcus replied, setting a stack of analysis pads onto a workstation. "Just, something feels off today." Talix fluttered her wings nervously. "Your instincts are not part of any measurable metric. I hope they are incorrect." Marcus smiled. "I usually do too." The lab bustled with activity. A cluster of crystalline researchers from the Livar species hummed vibrations to one another while calibrating sensors. 2 floating gelthans drifted near the ceiling, rearranging equipment with tendrils of translucent jelly. Several other species worked in focused silence, trusting the station's stability, trusting the schedule, trusting the safety protocols. That trust shattered in an instant. A shrill alarm knifed through the lab, turning every head toward the flashing red strobes. The central control panel lit up with an urgent warning written in dozens of languages, but Marcus only needed the shorthand icon to understand. "Breach detected. Unauthorized organic life in Equipment Bay 2. Talix's wings locked rigid. Seal the doors. Everyone to defensive positions. Human Marcus, retreat behind the blast partition immediately." Marcus didn't move. The alarm tone kept rising, climbing into a frequency that rattled the glassware. For a moment the entire lab froze, caught between confusion and fear. Then another alert flashed. More specific this time, a classification that made several species scream aloud. Lurraxian predator, juvenile class, shadow cub. Chaos erupted. The Livar shattered into dissonant chords of panic. The gelthans shot upward to cling to the lights like startled balloons. A reptilian medic dropped an entire tray of surgical tools, scales whitening as she hissed in terror. Even Talix, hardened by military service, took several jerky steps backward. A Lurraxian shadow cub was not a minor threat. It was a juvenile of a species considered universally untamable, brilliant, stealthy, and built for ambush. Adults could tear through armored vehicles. Even a cub, barely half-grown, could disembowel a researcher before security drones detected movement. Marcus exhaled slowly. Now he understood the uneasy feeling. He ignored the scramble around him and stepped toward the corridor. Talix snapped her mandibles in alarm. "You will obey protocol, Human Marcus. You will not approach that bay. Humans may possess baffling resilience, but you are not immune to death." "Never claimed I was," he said softly, slipping past her. "But if the cub is loose, the station's in danger. If we panic, it gets worse. Panic is the biologically appropriate response." Talix screeched. "Not for me." He continued down the hall as the automated blast doors hissed shut behind him, isolating terrified researchers from whatever prowled the shadows ahead. The lights flickered, dimming to emergency levels. His boots made soft taps on the deck plating, but beneath that he heard something else, the faint scrape of claws on metal. Close. Too close. Equipment Bay 2 loomed ahead, its massive sliding doors partially open, as if forced by something strong enough to bend reinforced alloy. Marcus approached, glancing at the warped edges. This wasn't the work of tools or machinery. It was brute force. He paused outside the entrance, letting the silence settle. The scraping stopped. The air grew sharp with the musky scent of something feral, something hungry, something intelligent enough to evaluate him from the darkness. He stepped inside. The bay had transformed into a cavern of overturned crates and scattered instrumentation. The foxfire blue emergency lights cast long shadows across the floor, illuminating only fragments of shapes. A toppled container here, a flicker of movement there. The temperature had dipped several degrees, as if the predator's presence itself leached warmth from the room. There, a low growl vibrated against his chest. Not a threat, not yet. A warning. Marcus didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't call security. Instead, he crouched slowly, keeping his hands visible. Easy, he murmured, his voice steady. I'm not here to hurt you. Something shuffled behind a stack of crates. Two eyes emerged, glowing a molten amber that pierced the gloom. The cub stepped into the light and Marcus felt the air tighten around him. It was magnificent, sleek black fur rippling like smoke, shoulder spines not yet fully developed but already imposing. Its jawline suggested a creature that would one day bite through steel plating. It moved with predatory grace even in its youth, muscles coiled and ready to strike. Every instinct of every alien on the station would demand flight, surrender, or paralysis. Marcus simply breathed. The cub lifted its head, analyzing him with the slow, deliberate focus of a creature that judged threats by confidence, not size. It padded forward a few steps. A low rumble vibrated through the deck plates. The massive tail swept side to side, stirring dust. Marcus tilted his head slightly. That was when he noticed it. Beneath the scent of musky fur and cold metal, there was a faint trace of something familiar. A forest soil aroma. Pine resin. The smell of old earth habitats. The cub growled again, uncertain. Marcus took a chance. He pursed his lips and emitted a sharp, clean whistle. Not loud, not aggressive, just a simple rising note that echoed gently through the bay. The cub froze mid-step. Its ears pricked. Its pupils widened. It blinked once, twice. Then, in a movement that defied everything aliens believed possible, the shadow cub trotted straight toward him, bumped its muzzle against his shoulder, and curled next to him like an oversized house pet seeking warmth. Marcus let out a slow breath and rested a hand on its thick fur. The texture was velvety but powerful, like coiled muscle wrapped in smoke. The cub rumbled softly, a sound unmistakably content. Behind him, the bay doors slammed open as several security units converged. Talix marched in front, her mandibles flaring so wide they nearly dislocated. She stopped when she saw Marcus seated casually beside the galaxy's deadliest juvenile predator, petting it as though it were a stray pup that had followed him home. All movement ceased. Even the drones hovered uncertainly, chirping in mechanical confusion. Talix sputtered. What have you done? Are you alive? Why is it not turning you into shredded biomass? Marcus shrugged. It's just a baby. Someone must have raised it around humans before it got lost or stolen. Our scent is familiar to it. The cub pressed closer, rumbling with a possessive warmth that made Talix stumble backward in absolute horror. Marcus stroked its head with gentle fingers. It's scared. And hungry. And very far from home. Human, Talix whispered, you are either impossibly brave or catastrophically foolish. Perhaps both. Probably both, Marcus admitted. He stood slowly, guiding the cub with a soft whistle. The creature followed with obedient steps that sent shivers across every alien observer. The researchers huddled behind security teams, whispering prayers, curses, or simply staring in disbelief. No one moved to stop Marcus as he led the cub out of the bay. No one dared. The station, moments earlier a maelstrom of panic, now pulsed with stunned silence. Every alien eye fixated on the impossible, on the man walking calmly with a living nightmare padding beside him. Marcus knew the chaos wasn't over. A Lurraxian cub never wandered alone. Somewhere out there, across the void or nearby on a hidden ship, an adult pack was searching for it. And when they discovered its presence on a populated research station, things might turn catastrophic. But for now, in this moment, the cub pressed its head against his leg like it had finally found someone it trusted. Someone it recognized. Marcus reached down and scratched behind one of its spines. Don't worry, he whispered. We'll figure this out. The cub purred. Behind him, the aliens stared as if witnessing the beginning of a myth they were not prepared to believe. And somewhere deep in Heliovault's trembling halls, the air shifted again, this time not with fear, but with the quiet, electrifying promise that something much larger had just begun. The shadow cub followed Marcus through the winding corridor as if tethered to him by an invisible thread. Every few steps it nudged his leg, almost impatient, as though reminding him it existed. He didn't mind. The cub's warm presence was easier to interpret than the dozen horrified stares trailing behind him. Station staff cleared a path long before he reached them, No one wanted to be within tail-swipe distance of a predator whose species was famous for ripping armored vehicles in half. A Gelden researcher clung to the ceiling tiles in silent terror while a trio of crystalline livar pressed flat against the storage bay door, vibrating in panicked discord. The cub paused to sniff a ventilation grate. A nearby reptilian medic whimpered and fainted. Marcus offered an apologetic nod to nobody in particular and kept walking. Talix skittered behind him, mandibles clacking in sharp disapproval. Human Marcus, control your companion. Its tail nearly touched me. That is an act of aggression in most Lurraxian dialects. It's not trying to threaten you, Marcus replied. It's curious. Curiosity is not a comfort. Talix chittered. She gestured wildly at the trembling researchers. This station houses 12 species, 8 of which evolved as prey. Your proximity to this creature is causing widespread panic. Marcus slowed to let the cub catch up. I can't exactly put it in a crate. You can put yourself in one. Talix snapped. At least then the creature will follow you inside and we can seal the door. He laughed softly. That won't help. It'll shred through a cargo container in 10 seconds. The commander froze. Her antennae twitched in horrified realization. Why would you say such things out loud? Because they're true. That does not soothe me. Marcus reached the habitat wing and gently whistled a 3-note pattern. The cub trotted beside him, purring softly, an unsettling sound from an apex predator known for death screams that froze blood. Its contentment was worse because no alien on board could compute the concept of a Lurraxian displaying affection. Inside the habitat chamber, Marcus guided the cub onto a padded mat between a row of unused research benches. The creature settled instantly, curling its massive body and resting its head on its forepaws like a house cat settling for a nap. The door sealed behind them. Talix exhaled a tremulous buzz. Explain everything. Slowly. Thoroughly. Preferably without physical demonstrations. Marcus sat cross-legged on the floor, the cub's tail already draped across his thigh. Lurraxians aren't mindless monsters. They're intensely intelligent, social, hierarchical, and incredibly loyal to anything they imprint on. You are describing the galaxy's most feared super-predators, Talix said faintly. Every predator has social structure, Marcus replied. Even humans. Her antennae tightened. Humans are omnivores, Marcus. You do not. We descended from pack hunters, he reminded. Coordination, ambush, persistence, bonding, all of that still sits deep in our wiring. Predators recognize something in us. Talix's eyes widened just slightly. That is profoundly unsettling. Marcus ran his fingers along the cub's fur. This little one must have been raised around humans. Smells familiar enough to trust me. Raised by humans? Talix's mandibles nearly unhinged. Why would any human willingly raise a being engineered by nature to eliminate entire villages? Marcus shrugged. Same reason humans raised wolves. That comparison does not reassure me. Didn't think it would. Before Talix could retort, the intercom chimed with a piercing tone unique to emergency assemblies. A calm but trembling voice of a Livar administrator announced that all researchers must report to the Central Council chamber for immediate briefing. Marcus exchanged a brief look with Talix. You will attend, she declared. And you will leave the creature here. Marcus gave a short whistle and pressed a hand to the cub's muzzle. It closed its eyes placidly. Stay, he murmured. The cub exhaled a content rumble and didn't move as he left the chamber. But its amber eyes followed him until the door closed. The Central Council chamber overflowed with anxious bodies, crystalline forms humming in pitched dissonance, translucent gel beings flickering with nervous colors, feathered species preening compulsively, reptilians clicking in defensive cadence. Fear soaked the air, palpable and charged. Marcus took a seat beside the 2 other humans on the station. Dr. Naomi Sato raised an eyebrow, her dark eyes sharp. So the rumors are true. You brought a Lurraxian cub inside. Alive. Technically it followed me, Marcus muttered. That's somehow worse, she replied. The 3rd human, Security Chief Trent Alvarez, gave a low whistle. You're causing more commotion than the plasma coil failure last month. Marcus didn't argue. The chamber lights dimmed as Administrator Vrun, a crystalline elder whose body shimmered like fractured ice, took the center platform. Its voice resonated through harmonic vibrations. We have received long-range scans, it announced. A cluster of Lurraxian vessels has altered course. Their trajectory aligns with Heliovault. The chamber erupted. Panic flooded the room like a living wave. Marcus stiffened. How many ships? Vrun's crystal facets shifted into a somber shade. 3 adult prowlers and 1 elder carrier. Trent cursed under his breath. Naomi clenched her jaw. Talix marched to the platform. The elders only travel when retrieving lost offspring, she stated. They will stop at nothing until the cub is returned. Naomi leaned toward Marcus. They came for it. Marcus nodded grimly. Makes sense. Juveniles don't wander. It must have escaped or been stolen. Talix's mandibles snapped sharply. This means the presence of the cub endangers the entire station. We must prepare for the Lurraxians to forcibly retrieve it. Agel then raised a trembling tendril. We should jettison it, perhaps? The room erupted into shrill agreement from prey-evolved species. Marcus shot to his feet. Absolutely not. Human Marcus, Talix warned, emotions do not override survival. The creature must be removed. That's not removal, Marcus snapped. That's execution. And the adults will know the moment they arrive. Administrator Vrun's glow darkened. He is correct. Lurraxian senses are formidable. They can track the scent of their young across kilometers of open space. They will detect deceit. So what are you suggesting? A reptilian hissed. We allow it to roam freely while its lethal family claws at our hull? No, Marcus replied. I'm suggesting we use the cub as a bridge. The uproar nearly shook the walls. Talix clicked violently. Explain your logic before I faint. Lurraxians don't negotiate with prey, Marcus said. But they do communicate with anything they consider pack-adjacent. If the cub imprinted on humans, the adults might recognize that bond. Naomi rubbed her temples. You're saying we can negotiate with space wolves using empathy? Exactly. Trent grimaced. You're insane. But also maybe right. A crystalline voice echoed from the far corner. What if they see us as a threat for keeping their cub? Marcus didn't flinch. Then I'll talk to them myself. The chamber descended into stunned silence. Talix stared at him as though he'd grown a second head. You will speak to the galaxy's most perfected killing machines? Marcus shrugged. Someone has to. And you believe you won't be immediately consumed? If that was their goal, he said quietly, they wouldn't bring an elder. They'd bring a war fleet. The logic rippled through the room, shifting panic into uneasy contemplation. Vrun refracted a more hopeful hue. The human may offer our only path to peaceful resolution. Talix sighed, antennae drooping. You humans are dangerously comfortable dancing on the edge of extinction. Marcus smiled faintly. Someone has to keep things interesting. But before any resolution could form, the chamber door burst open as a security drone streaked inside, alarm lights flashing crimson. Urgent. Lurraxian vessels have reached suborbital position. Adult predators are initiating external scans. Fear exploded again. Marcus turned to Trent. I need to get back to the cub. Trent nodded grimly. I'll escort you. Administrator Vrun called out, voice trembling with crystalline resonance. Human Marcus, if this is to be our only strategy, may fortune guard your steps. Marcus didn't waste breath replying. He sprinted through the corridors, following Trent past huddled researchers and frantic technicians. The station trembled as shockwaves from the prowler ships rippled through the hull. When they reached the habitat chamber, Marcus slapped the panel. The door slid open. The cub was already awake. It paced restlessly, ears pinned, tail lashing in violent arcs. Every instinct in its body screamed danger. It turned the instant Marcus entered and barreled toward him, not to attack, but to press its head firmly against his chest in frantic recognition. Trent took an involuntary step back. Jesus. It's huge up close. Marcus wrapped his arms around the cub's neck, steadying it. Easy. Easy, little one. I know. They're close. The cub's rumble deepened into a vibrating call Marcus had never heard before, a sound that resonated through the room like a low, echoing beacon. Outside the chamber, the lights flickered. A deep, resonant pulse echoed through the station, a sound not made by machines but by throats evolved for command. A Lurraxian adult calling out across the void. The cub answered. The walls trembled as if something enormous brushed the hull. Trent swore softly. They know it's here. Marcus nodded. And they know it's with me. The cub pressed closer, trembling, not with fear but anticipation. Trent looked at Marcus with a mixture of awe and dread. What the hell are you going to do now? Marcus stroked the cub's jaw, meeting its molten eyes. The only thing that might keep this station alive. The cub nudged him as if agreeing. I'm going to open a dialogue, Marcus whispered. With predators who don't understand the word. The cub growled softly, ready? The station lights dimmed again as the adult Lurraxians sent another pulse, this time demanding, calling for their own. Marcus exhaled, steadying his heartbeat. "All right," he murmured. "Let's see if monsters can listen." The hull groaned with a sound no one on Heliovault had ever heard before. It was not metal under stress, nor the tremor of passing debris. It was the resonant scrape of something alive brushing against the outer plating, a sound too deliberate, too controlled, too aware. The adult Lurraxians had arrived. Marcus steadied himself as the habitat chamber vibrated, the cub pressed against his leg like a trembling shadow. Not trembling in fear, trembling because its instincts recognized the adults and demanded response. The cub's pupils were blown wide, its breath short and charged. The entire creature was a coil of kinetic tension. Trent Alvarez stood by the door, pulse rifle lowered but ready. He looked at Marcus as if re-evaluating every assumption he'd ever had about him. "You sure about this? You walk out there and they might swallow you whole. We've all seen the footage." "That's exactly why I have to go," Marcus replied. "They're calling to the cub. If I don't show myself, the adults will assume we're hiding it. And if you do show yourself? Then they see I'm not a threat." Trent snorted. "You'll forgive me if I doubt apex predators think in such poetic terms." Marcus placed a hand on the cub's neck. "They think in terms of pack. Bonds. Loyalty. Territory. They'll judge me by how the cub reacts. And what if they judge wrong?" Marcus didn't answer. There wasn't one. He whistled softly. The cub lifted its head, amber eyes glowing with instinctual tension. "Come on," Marcus whispered. "Time to meet your family." Trent swore under his breath as the two stepped past him. "You're insane, Hale?" "Probably," Marcus agreed. The corridor outside was deserted. Alarms pulsed a low, steady warning. Emergency lights strobed in red, washing the hall in a predatory glow that made the cub's black fur gleam like polished obsidian. The tremors grew stronger with each passing second. Marcus walked directly toward the airlock that connected to the observation bay. He could feel Talix's horror radiating from the command channel. "Human Marcus," her voice crackled. "Retreat immediately. Do not attempt contact. Repeat, do not attempt contact. The Lurraxians have activated biothermal scans." "They're looking for the cub," Marcus replied, calm as still water. "Let me handle this." "You are committing a catastrophic breach of protocol." "This situation doesn't care about protocol." The cub pressed closer as the hall lights flickered. Its tail swept in sharp arcs, the air vibrating faintly with its tension. Marcus slowed and crouched, taking the cub's snout gently in both hands. "Listen to me," he murmured. "You stay with me. You don't run. You don't hide. You show them you're not afraid." The cub rumbled, the sound low and resonant, like distant thunder. He straightened and approached the airlock. Trent's voice came over the comm, hushed and heavy. "Marcus, good luck." The airlock cycled, depressurization humming through the floor. The inner door slid open, revealing the observation bay, transparent walls looking out into the endless abyss. And there, beyond the glass, gliding around the station like abyssal leviathans, were the adult Lurraxians. 3 prowlers circled Heliovault, massive and sinuous, their bodies shimmering with fractal biometal plating. Their eyes burned like twin suns carved into shadow. Behind them loomed the elder carrier, vast, ancient, its organic metal hull etched with runic patterns that seemed to pulse with a heartbeat of their own. The prowlers emitted another infrasonic pulse. The cub answered with a high, trembling call. The adults froze. One prowler shifted, aligning itself with the observation bay. Its jaws opened, revealing rows of crystalline teeth that refracted starlight. Its massive head drifted close to the glass, fogging the exterior. Marcus felt every cell in his body screaming to run. Instead, he stepped forward, placing one hand on the transparent barrier. The cub walked beside him, shoulder brushing his knee. The prowler's eyes flicked from the cub to Marcus. Its pupils dilated. A low, seismic growl vibrated through the entire chamber. Marcus forced his breathing steady. "I know you're listening," he whispered, unsure whether sound carried, but certain intent did. "Your cub is alive. Safe." The prowler's growl dipped into a rumbling frequency, one Marcus recognized. It was a warning, not an attack. Another pulse. Stronger. Marcus' vision blurred for half a second. His heart thudded in painful sync with the vibrations. Then something unexpected happened. The prowler dipped its head lower, almost touching the glass. Its throat lights shifted from predatory crimson to a softer, pulsing blue, the Lurraxian signal for inquiry. "A question." Naomi's voice crackled through the comm, They're trying to understand your connection to the cub. Then let's show them, Marcus murmured. He whistled a gentle pattern, 3 notes rising, 2 falling. The cub responded instantly, nuzzling Marcus' side before lifting its head toward the adults with a soft chirr that resonated with trust. The prowler's eyes widened. Another prowler glided into view, circling the observation bay like a silent judge. It emitted a harmonic vibration that made Marcus' bones hum. They're communicating, Naomi whispered in disbelief. Marcus placed both hands flat against the glass. He's not a prisoner. He's not in danger. He's with me. The cub echoed the motion in its own way, placing one massive paw against the floor, mirroring Marcus' stillness. Its posture was calm, non-hostile. The adult released a tremulous growl that shook the bay but lacked aggression. It was assessing him, weighing him, recognizing something familiar. Predators recognized predators. A sudden alarm burst through the calm. Talix's voice shredded the channel. Human Marcus, evacuate the area immediately. A weapon system has been activated. This is not us. Marcus spun around. What? Trent's voice cracked like a whip. Rogue faction in engineering. They think you're under mind control. They're prepping a stun cannon. Talix screamed. If they fire upon the Lurraxians, it will trigger annihilation. Marcus whirled back toward the glass. The prowlers were already shifting, eyes narrowing, bodies coiling into defensive posture. Their throats lit with scarlet warning flares. No, 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 don't do this, Marcus whispered. The cub sensed the shift and pressed against him, emitting a distressed whine. A surge of energy crackled through the observation bay as the stun cannon outside the chamber charged, a rising whine that scraped Marcus' nerves raw. Trent yelled through the comm, Marcus, get down. Marcus ignored him. He stepped directly between the cub and the observation window, arms spread wide as if his body could block a station-level weapon. He shouted at the glass, at the looming shadows beyond it. Don't react. It's not us. Don't attack. The prowlers roared as one, soundless but devastating, a telepathic explosion of fury that rocked Marcus to his knees. The cub yelped, clinging to him. The stun cannon fired. The blast slammed into the prowler's flank. A silence deeper than vacuum followed. Then the Lurraxian screamed. The lights shattered overhead. The observation bay shook violently as the adults shifted into attack posture, mandibles flaring, spines raised, jaws opening with lethal promise. Trent shouted, they're priming their weapons. Marcus, move. Marcus didn't move. He stood, unsteady, shaking, but upright. He placed a hand on the cub's head and met the prowler's blazing eyes. He forced his voice steady. Look at him. He's not hurt. I didn't hurt him. Don't punish the wrong ones. The cub pressed its muzzle against Marcus' palm. A deliberate gesture. A declaration. The prowlers hesitated. Their jaws closed. The red in their throats dimmed to warning blue. The elder carrier drifted closer, larger than any craft Marcus had ever seen. Its presence filled the entire observation window like a living eclipse. A pulse emanated from it, slow, deep, ancient. Marcus fell still as it washed over him. It was not rage. It was recognition. The elder studied him through the barrier. Its eyes were older than anything human science had measured. They narrowed slightly as if reading the imprint on the cub's scent, on Marcus' own posture, on the unshaken bond between them. Another pulse. Softer. Questioning. Marcus whispered, yes. We are pack. The cub echoed the words in its own tongue, a soft, trilling whine. The prowlers settled into a low orbit around the bay. The elder held position, massive and inscrutable but no longer primed to strike. Naomi's voice returned, trembling. Marcus, I think they believe you. Talix added, voice barely stable. You prevented our immediate destruction. But the rogue attack has changed everything. They will demand something. Marcus kept his gaze locked on the elder. Then we give them truth. The cub nudged him again, lighter this time. Trent exhaled shakily. What happens now? Marcus rested his palm against the glass once more. Now, he murmured, I go out there. Trent stiffened. You can't be serious. I am, Marcus said, eyes reflecting the prowler's glow. If they want dialogue, it has to be face to face. The elder pulsed again. An invitation. Marcus swallowed hard. Open the airlock. Trent stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Talix screamed in his ear. Human Marcus, you cannot. He cut her off. I have to. He looked at the cub. Come with me, he whispered. The cub rose instantly, ready. Marcus stepped toward the airlock, heart slamming in his chest. Behind the glass the monsters waited. And for the first time since humanity entered the galactic stage, they weren't hunting. They were listening. ChatGPT said. Marcus felt the station tremble again, a low shudder rippling through the reinforced plating beneath his boots. The sound was not mechanical, he could tell instantly, but rather a deep, resonant growl from outside. The Lurraxians were circling, closer than before, their shadowed shapes momentarily blotting the distant sun through the viewport. Aliens across the command deck stiffened with instinctual terror. Some clutched railings, others curled their limbs inward, trying to appear smaller. Marcus didn't blame them. Most species would shrink in the presence of predators capable of slicing starship hulls open like ripe fruit. But what unsettled him wasn't their nearness, it was how calm they'd been earlier. They were waiting, watching, expecting something. And he knew exactly what. The cub pressed to his side. The juvenile Lurraxian paced in a slow, anxious arc, its obsidian fur bristling with tension. The creature's golden eyes flicked to Marcus every few seconds, seeking direction, reassurance, perhaps even courage. Marcus placed a steady hand on its neck, feeling the subtle vibration of its muscles. Easy, he murmured. We're not going to let this go sideways. Commander Talix, chest plates trembling with stress, hissed, we must evacuate. The predators are preparing to breach the hull. They won't breach anything unless provoked, Marcus replied. Their formation isn't attack-oriented. It's communicative. Several officers stared at him as if he'd lost his mind. The diplomatic advisor, Vrun, folded his thin limbs in disbelief. Humans interpret predators circling as communication? This is why your species terrifies everyone. Marcus didn't deny it. Humanity had earned its unsettling reputation through countless encounters where logic, insanity, and bravery tangled together in strange patterns. But this time instinct wasn't recklessness, it was clarity. The adults weren't behaving like hunters. They were behaving like a pack seeking resolution. Talix pointed a trembling limb toward the readouts. Their energy signatures are rising. If they attack. They're calling, Marcus interrupted softly. Not charging. As if to confirm his words, a sudden rumbling pulse rippled through the station. Not physical, mental. A telepathic vibration deep enough to make even Marcus stagger. Aliens collapsed to their knees, overwhelmed by the psychic force. The cub yelped, claws skittering on the floor. Marcus steadied it, teeth clenched. The pulse wasn't an attack. It was a summons. They want him, Marcus whispered. And they know he's inside. Panic erupted in the command center. Officers shouted. Alarms flared red. Defense teams sprinted into position with neurofoam rifles raised. Everyone seemed to expect the station to be ripped apart within minutes. Marcus made a decision. He turned to Talix. Open the exterior access hatch. The commander reared back as if struck. Absolutely not. You will be killed instantly. They will take the cub and tear you apart as collateral. They've had plenty of chances to kill me, Marcus replied. And they didn't. Vrun's luminous eyes blinked rapidly in agitation. Your behavior is statistically indefensible. Marcus almost smiled. Story of my life. Before the commander could protest again, Marcus knelt in front of the cub. He placed both hands firmly on its shoulders. Listen, he said. If I walk out there, you stay with me. Same pace. No lunging. No growling. We're not fighting, you understand? The cub pressed its forehead to his, accepting the command with a low, trembling chirr. Marcus rose, inhaled, and headed to the hatch. The deck grew silent. No one dared stop him, not because they agreed but because they sensed that any interference might worsen things. The airlock cycled open with a hiss, revealing the vast exterior platform bathed in dim light. A cold wind licked across Marcus's face as he stepped out, boots clanging lightly. The cub followed, staying so close its shoulder brushed his leg with each step. Above them, the void shimmered with shifting shadows. Then the adults descended. 4 massive Lurraxians dropped from the hull's upper region, their wings folding tight. Their bodies were sleek and towering, armored with gleaming scales, jaws lined with serrated teeth designed to shear bone. Their eyes glowed like coals. When they landed, the platform trembled. Marcus swallowed hard. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the decision that something else mattered more. And right now, preventing a war mattered more than the instinct to run. The largest adult stepped forward first, lowering its head. A deep, resonant rumble emanated from its chest, half warning, half question. The cub whimpered, its posture shrinking. Marcus rested a steadying hand on its back. Slowly, deliberately he knelt. not in submission but in trust. The Lurraxians paused. Marcus tilted his head, exposing the side of his neck, a gesture no alien had ever seen before. It was a calculated risk. Among Earth's apex predators, exposed vulnerability, when voluntarily given, was a universal symbol between species. A signal of peace. A promise of restraint. The adults exchanged low frequencies that reverberated in the metal beneath him. The largest leaned close, inhaling Marcus's scent. Hot breath washed over his skin, smelling faintly of minerals and blood. Its jaw opened, revealing a nightmare of teeth. Then, it clicked its tongue softly. An acknowledgement. The cub cried out in relief, pushing its head against Marcus before bounding clumsily toward the adults. One of them nuzzled the juvenile gently, protective and stern all at once. They weren't angry. They weren't vengeful. They were worried parents. Marcus exhaled, tension draining from his shoulders. But the peace lasted only seconds. A shrill alarm echoed from inside the station. Plasma turret whine. Unauthorized activation. No, 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 Marcus whispered. A squad of alien extremists, panicked and convinced the humans were under psychic control, had seized manual weaponry. They believed they were saving the station by striking first. A bolt of searing plasma shot across the hangar, missing an adult Lurraxian by centimeters. The creature recoiled with a furious, echoing roar. The others flared their wings, hackles rising, instincts shifting from calm negotiation to lethal retaliation. The cub shrieked in terror. Marcus ran toward the source of the shot, screaming, "Hold your fire! Hold your fire!" His voice was drowned out by the mechanical scream of charging weapons. The Lurraxians tensed, their muscles coiling, calculating how many seconds it would take to tear through the platform. Then a second bolt flew. This one grazed the lead adult's flank, slicing through its scale and drawing a line of smoking blood. The roar that followed was unlike anything Marcus had ever heard, pure pain, pure fury. The attack was seconds away. Marcus spun on his heel, placing himself directly between the Lurraxians and the turrets. "Stop!" he bellowed, voice cracking with raw desperation. The cub, miraculously, darted to his side, planting itself between Marcus and its enraged kin. It looked up at the wounded adult and emitted a rapid series of churring pleas. Its body language was frantic, begging, commanding all at once. The adults hesitated. Not much, but enough. From behind Marcus, boots thundered. Human Marines stormed onto the platform, but unlike the extremists, they raised no weapons. They formed a protective half-circle behind Marcus instead, bodies steady, expressions grim. "Weapons down," their captain ordered. "Non-lethal only. Nobody fires unless Hale gives the call." Marcus felt a surge of relief so strong his knees nearly buckled. The humans weren't here to escalate, they were here to keep the peace. The lead adult lowered its wings slightly, bleeding but focused. It rumbled something deep and jagged. The cub responded with a keening cry, nudging Marcus's leg urgently. He understood the instinct behind the sound, it wanted him to speak for them. He faced the Lurraxians fully. "The shot wasn't from us. The humans aren't your enemy. We didn't bring you here to fight, we're trying to fix this." The wounded adult leaned close until its forehead touched Marcus's, a silent test. He didn't move. Not even when its claws scraped sparks from the floor inches from his feet. Finally, the creature exhaled a hot breath and drew back. The Marines lowered their gear. The cub pressed its body against Marcus again, trembling but determined. In the tense stillness that followed, the Lurraxian adults made their choice. They did not attack. They did not flee. They simply gathered around the cub and Marcus in a loose circle, protecting rather than threatening. A message, unmistakable in its clarity. The humans were accepted. Not just tolerated. Pack adjacent. Behind Marcus, aliens inside the station watched in silent awe, witnessing a moment no species had ever achieved. Apex predators forging trust with a human, not through domination but through mutual recognition. Marcus let out a slow breath as the tension finally broke. The crisis was over. But the shift it created would ripple across the galaxy. Because for the first time in recorded history, the Lurraxians had chosen peace. And they had chosen it because of a human. Far above the station, new ships emerged from warp, Lurraxian reinforcements responding to the earlier distress call, unaware of the fragile alliance forming. Their silhouettes darkened half the stars. Marcus looked up at them, then at the cub pressed against him, then at the Marines standing ready. "We're not done yet," he said quietly. But this time, the fear in his voice was gone. There was only resolve. And the certainty that humanity, small, strange, stubborn humanity, had just stepped into a future no one had dared imagine.